Hi.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Short Bus Debate Club on Thursday. Obviously, we are running late, so your transfers have expired and exact change is necessary. I'm Brian.
Maybe we could do like Superman, when he
Fly around the earth.
Make the time go backwards.
So it's Superman 3?
This is the first one, I think, dude. Actually,
couldn't have been.
Was it 3?
Because he fought. That's the one where he fought Zod, right?
Zod was 2.
Maybe it was 2.
No, he didn't make time go backwards in 2.
Oh, fuck it. I don't know. I can't remember. Those were cheesy movies too.
Yeah, they were.
So on this Wednesday edition, we are going to talk about cheesy movies, corny movies,
science fiction movies.
Yeah, corny science fiction, cheesy science fiction, hackney science fiction, hokey,
which is such
hacky.
An important class of film. Like, it is just, my childhood was just peppered with fucking goofy ass fucking science fiction movies.
Well, I think everybody has seen them. If you watch movies at all, because, we talked about this where a movie studio wants to juice as much as they can out of whatever, a book, a TV show, a movie that had been made before. So a lot of people have seen them, even if they don't realize that they've seen them, or who knows, maybe they think that they're good quality film,
which would be kind of funny.
And don't get me wrong, when I say cheesy, corny, hacky, hokey, hackney, these are not necessarily insults, because a lot of these movies I truly fucking love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So in case you didn't know, I'm Brian. That other guy talking is Darren.
Nice to meet you.
And
nice to meet you too, Brian.
It's damn glad to meet you. So I don't know, where should we start? Do you want to kind of do like some chronological shit? Do you want to just talk about the most cheesy that popped into your head? Do you want to talk about the one that we agreed upon before we even started talking about this show?
I think that's a good place to start, because we can kind of transition into different spaces, because that director in relation to it. And yeah.
So if you guys have not seen this movie, you need to go out and watch it. It's important from the sci-fi perspective, but it's also important from a government who is out of control and basically oppressing all of the people, within its realm, even though those people don't realize they're being oppressed.
That's what the most important thing, is that there's this veil between, reality and where everybody functions at on the daily.
So the name of the movie is They Live. John Carpenter was the director. I think he may have written it also. The wrestler from the early 80s and maybe late 80s, Rowdy Roddy Piper, was in it. There was, I never can remember his friend's name in the movie.
Black guy?
Yeah. I think it's Dennis something. But anyway, these two are in the middle of a battle, and the battle is against, well, the government, but mainly this alien species that has come down and taken over. And they're putting subliminal messages in everything. It's on TV, it's on the magazines, it's the newspaper, it's on billboards, it's everywhere.
It says obey, consume,
Right.
It's hilarious.
But the only way you can see this is if you are an alien or you have these special sunglasses.
How did he get the glasses again? I don't remember how he got the glasses.
Because there was this rebel group, and I can't remember how he ended up with the rebel group, but they were moving like out of this one house because they were thinking that they were about to get busted. So they were moving from the house, and this rebel group had figured out how to build these sunglasses so that you could see not only the messages, but the aliens themselves. And he thought these are cool sunglasses that fell out of the box. So he put them on, and, for a while he didn't even realize it. But then he goes into like this grocery store, and it fucking freaks him out because he sees this old lady, and now she's just like this weird skeleton looking thing. Yeah. And he insulted the old lady. I can't remember what he said to her.
Something about her being an ugly bitch or something like that.
Yeah. But then he saw all of the messages in the magazine rack, and he started to kind of freak out. He's taking the sunglasses off. He's putting them back on.
He looks up at a TV, and he sees Ronald Reagan there and puts his glasses on. Ronald Reagan's a fucking alien.
Well, so then one of the aliens says, "We've got one that can see." And these cops show up, and he ends up killing a cop, and now he's a cop killer. But so the United States government and the aliens are working very closely together, but really, the aliens are in control of everything.
It's a cahoots conspiracy.
Yes, but there are certain humans that they allow to see them, and that they allow, the intelligence to know that they live. And that they're around.
His buddy's name was Keith David, and his name was Frank. That's the real guy is Keith David.
Okay.
So he tries to get him to look at the glasses, use the glasses. Isn't that why they?
That's when they ended up in that fight. And Darren gave me a stat that I don't know because I never timed it. I knew it was fucking long, but he said it was the longest fight scene in any movie.
Between just two people,
And it went on for, what, 12
minutes? 12
minutes?
minutes or something like that. Yeah. Just fucking stupid. Hilarious.
It was super long.
Hacky.
Well, so they ended up going their separate ways after that fight. But then this guy, Frank, comes back to him and says, "Okay, I believe you now. I know things are fucked up." Because at that point, during the fight, Roddy Piper had lost his sunglasses, and Frank picked him up. And then later on, he started seeing all of the shit that Roddy Piper had seen. So I guess the reason we kicked off this episode with that movie is because, again, John Carpenter did that movie. And I think he's probably most known for Halloween. But he did a couple of other really corny science fiction movies, which, again, I fucking love. The first one more than the second, but still. So that is Escape from New York and then Escape from LA. So Escape from LA, they truly broke out the fucking cheese.
Yeah, he's surfing in that scene, right? I mean, what kind of dumbass shit was that?
Well, and they do hang gliding and all kinds of other shit. But basically, the premise behind both movies is that in New York, they wall off, I think it's Manhattan, and Manhattan is a prison. So anybody who fits whatever parameter, felony murder or, really bad shit, they send to the island. The same thing happened in California, but the thing is that California, because of earthquakes, had actually cracked off, and so now California was an island.
He must have really loved Kurt Russell, dude.
Yeah, I think so. Because he was in those two, plus Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
And maybe something else. I don't
What
know.
a fucking horrible actor that guy is. No, I can't hate on him. I mean, dude, I mean, those
Tango
are,
and Cash.
dude, I can go with Big Trouble in Little China. I can't do Tango and Cash. That would be like watching Overboard or some shit like that,
Overboard.
Yeah.
Not a good movie.
Not a good movie at all.
But I do still watch it. So John Carpenter kind of has this this common thread that runs through a lot of his movies, and maybe you could kind of tie this in with even his horror movies, but basically it is again similar to the They Live thing, where we have a government that is out of control and they are oppressing people. In both Escape from New York and Escape from LA, someone important ended up in the prison. In Escape from New York, the president's plane, Air Force One, crashed. They had to go get him. And
Crashed on the island.
the president in Escape from New York, was actually the doctor from Halloween.
Really? I think I've only seen Halloween one time, dude. Not a big horror guy. Or at least not a horror guy like the Friday the 13th Halloween.
No, I'm not either. They're so fucking stupid. I just can't, even understand. Like, he's always walking. And somehow
he's the speed walking champion of history.
But when they show him, he's not fucking walking or anything. He's just walking at a leisurely pace. And these people are so stupid that they fuck up and they trip and they fall or whatever. But why in the fuck wouldn't you just keep running?
You just gotta stop right there.
Yeah.
You just let the narrative of horror movies.
The
horror movies from those time periods.
Yeah, I know. I need to engage my willful suspension of disbelief.
I don't even think it's like that. I mean, it's like if you're gonna go watch Lord of the Rings, you don't go little hairy people that have goofy feet and fucking wander around all over the place. They don't run around trying to steal shit from dragons. You know? That's because that's not why you watch a movie like that, or a dumbass movie like fucking Halloween.
That's fair. I mean, but I always, when I'm watching them, wonder why. But I don't like them for the same reason, and I laugh a bunch, and I've gotten in trouble for laughing during those types of movies.
Really?
Yeah, the ex was not pleased with the way that I watch TV or movies.
I think that it was pretty much with most anything that was associated to you, just in general. So, John Carpenter.
So the only other one that I really wanted to mention, and it is definitely cheesy, is Ghost of Mars. So Ice Cube and Jason Statham.
So this is way newer.
Yeah, I want to say like 2006, 2005, something like that. Maybe 2002. But Jason Statham plays a cop. Ice Cube plays a criminal. But they end up having to work together because they're fighting this alien menace on Mars. And this huge mining conglomerate was on Mars digging for some valuable ore, and they ended up releasing all of these spirits of these weird goth people. And they started piercing themselves with any sort of metal shard or wood or whatever, and they're making primitive weapons, and they start killing everybody. The reason I mention that one is because, again, that thread of greed and oppression are kind of there, and that's how they ended up releasing these, whatever the fuck you want to call them, spirit people.
It was from 2001, and on the stars on Internet Movie Database, it got a 4.9 out of 10.
Huge numbers. Huge. So it's definitely cheesy. I mean, there's no doubt. Jason Statham is addicted to some kind of drug, heroin or something along those lines.
It's not a speed one; it's a take you down one.
Yeah, and one of the other cops was too, and he ended up dying. But Ice Cube could recognize the symptoms, and anyway, or maybe Statham wasn't. Maybe it was the girl
who ended up, and Ice Cube lived at the end, or what?
I think so. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, again, so this wasn't my favorite, and I didn't really want to talk about it except for the fact that Carpenter did it. So I kind of wanted to, I guess, show that he really likes to do these kind of movies.
Well, and historically, it's important. I mean, it's like a pre-nod to Eminem. You know, the black guy doesn't die in this movie. You know,
so those are my John Carpenter movies that I wanted to talk about and kind of get out of the way. Between Darren and I, we've got a huge fucking list.
We could go on for days, but we won't do that to y'all.
So, I mean, where do you want to go from here? Is there anything on the top of your head that you really want to talk about?
Arnold. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like in the 80s, like, you know, whether like Running Man or Total Recall or what other stupid movie? Predator. Yeah, I mean, you could Predator 2 was stupid, but definitely like the first Predator movie when they
Total Recall.
Yeah,
you said that.
Yeah. But his films from that time period, they're iconic. I mean, they like Total Recall. I was having a conversation like when the oxygen, you know, they get thrown outside at the end of the dome, him and his love interest, and they're sitting there trying, you know, gasping, trying to get air, you know, and their fucking eyes start fucking popping out of their heads because a couple other people didn't, and we'd seen it, you know, as soon as like the Jack in the Box eyeballs go boing, and then it's over with. But like, and just in the like this last moment, because they had started that, so there's the machine that's inside, and you have to use the alien hand thing, which is 4 fingers and not 5.
And then those really hot bars come down and melt the ice.
And the rods, yeah, and immediately the melting of the ice caps not only puts water on the planet, but
creates atmosphere.
Oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yeah,
and so much so that, in spite of the fact that he and his lady friend's eyes are just at the very point where they should just pop out of their heads, they immediately get the oxygen, and then they're safe.
It was awesome, dude. I mean, again, corny, cheesy, because they waited definitely over 2.5 minutes for that to happen, so their heads should have exploded.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah,
but you know, and again, so I've got to read the fucking book because I still don't know. Like in the original Total Recall, they take a spaceship and go to Mars. In the fucking remake Total Recall, there's some fucking elevator. It doesn't take them to Mars, but it takes them to these mines or a robot factory or some shit. And I don't know if in the book, if it's an elevator or a spaceship.
Well, and of course we got to mention that while they go to Mars, did they go to Mars, or was it a fantasy? You know.
Oh, you mean because of the fact that he didn't know who the fuck was who? Like Sharon Stone was supposed to be his wife, but she was actually a plant.
Well, yeah, and that's at the beginning. He wants to go on a trip, you know, and you can either go and take a trip to Mars, or you can go to Total Recall and have them create this fantasy trip for you. So
see, I kind of hated that, and that was in both movies. But what I never could figure out is who would actually spend, you know, thousands of credits. I think they called them credits in the movie for this thing, and then they say, oh well, you know, we can give you these add-ons, like you can be a spy or an international playboy or whatever. Well,
so Piers Anthony wrote it?
I don't know. You mean the book?
Yeah.
I thought it was
I thought it was Philip K.
Philip K.
Dick.
Dick.
I really thought it was Philip K. Dick.
I've got the book in my Brian Courtney Lending library. But you can pay these credits for this thing, and you can pay extra for the really hot girlfriend or the job that you have at the time or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, if you do any of that other shit, then your brain is going to realize that it didn't happen because you're not a spy. You're not an international playboy. So how fucking depressed would you be with this fucking thing saying, 2 weeks ago I was a fucking international man of mystery, and now I'm fucking shoveling shit at the livery?
Well, and especially because, and this is the whole Cartesian thing, like, once you start to fuck around with your ability to know whether or not something actually happened to you or didn't happen to you, your ability to negotiate. And this is where Descartes fucks everything up, because he has his moment of doubt, but immediately brings everything back by page 14, and God's alive, and blah 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 blah. But in this world, and that's why I like the 13th floor, because unlike this one, they sort of leave it hanging out there. They don't ever tell you whether or not it was something that really happened or whether or not it was in his mind. But like the Matrix, I guess the idea of it, the six, the destroying it 6 times over and over again. But I don't feel like the Matrix adequately answers or even thinks about the question of, if you can't tell the difference when you're in the fantasy, how can you, like Inception, they have the thing that you spin.
The top.
Yeah. What did they call them? Your totem. You have a totem, and if it does what it's supposed to do, then the 13th floor does that the best, because they build worlds on top of worlds on top of worlds, except for during the last world. Then they say, well, you're really awake then. But I just don't know if you can ever really know whether or not you're a brain in a vat, which is, of course, that's what the in a philosophy.
Well, and when you and I used to get high, even before either of us had gone to school, we always talked about that. What if we're just in someone else's dream?
Or in somebody else's universe, like the Men.
Or our dream, or whatever. There's some fucking coma patient in the hospital in fucking Tokyo, and they're dreaming all of this shit.
The short story was called "We Can Remember It for You Wholesale," and it was Philip K. Dick. So
yeah. So yeah, there's some stuff there, but those. I shouldn't say those, because I didn't like the second one, but the first one was awesome. And, to fit into the cheesy, corny thing, you mentioned their head's about to explode, but then everything is fine. But, there's a girl with 3 tits. There's a dude with some weird head that comes out of his chest.
The mutants that are affected by the when the dome wasn't perfectly sealed.
Right.
So, which is an underclass. So really, the movie is a very sophisticated movie. They deal with so many different dimensions of, as hacky as it is, and as much as, I want to hate Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was the governor of fucking California and such a fucking dipshit, and his politics were so fucking asinine. But that was really a great movie.
Okay, so since you mentioned Arnold being in politics, I've got to mention Demolition Man. And the reason that I mention it is because when they're on their way to their fancy dinner at Taco Bell, Sandra Bullock and Sly Stallone,
another incredible actor,
are going to Taco Bell for this fancy dinner. And she's talking, and she says, well, I did a lot of research from books that I got at the Schwarzenegger Library. And he's like, Schwarzenegger Library? And she said, yeah, he was president because of his popularity. Even though he wasn't born here, they changed the Constitution so that people who were foreign born could become president.
And that was a decade before he was even governor, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had never been governor yet, but I mean, it's still hysterical to think about that.
So hysterical. Repression, I mean, weird.
And that one, again, is one of those. I don't. Well, I do. I like the things that have a story that are really, hopefully, trying to shine a light on society. So there's this fucking evil doctor. He's not evil in everyone's eyes. He's the fucking savior of the world. But Dr. Raymond Cocteau, after Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, and LA merged to make the San Angeles Metroplex.
Yeah, that's exactly good. You're doing good. You're remembering all these fucking details.
He hates Dennis Leary because Dennis Leary lives underground and he does graffiti and he eats salt and gravy and meat, and all of this stuff is outlawed. Sex isn't allowed. Cussing isn't allowed.
You're allowed to have sex.
You
just have to do it. You just have to do it with your sex helmet, where you don't.
Any
exchange of body fluids.
So virtual sex, yeah, that's fine.
No, that sucks. Yeah.
But according to Raymond Cocteau, it was for the betterment of society. So there are all these fucking weirdo virgins wandering around, but everybody who lives topside and wants to follow the rules, they are, safe and warm, and it's this fucking weird, like blurry utopia.
Yeah.
If you don't follow the rules, then you live down in the fucking storm drains and storm sewers and stuff, and probably starve to death. And I think I know the answer, and we've talked about it on other episodes, but I really, and maybe I should try to write it myself, it bothers me that anyone who doesn't want to follow status quo ends up being these wretched...
a demon, a criminal, a deviant.
Yeah, but not only that, but you end up being without anything. Yeah. I mean, starving. You don't have heat or air conditioning or basic essentials, toothbrush, toothpaste, whatever.
Yeah. As far as the people that are on the top side, and this is very Time Machine. I mean, it's not exactly the same thing where you get the Morlocks, but down below, and I can't remember what they called the little goofy people that have sex all day, every day, and you
I know what you're talking about, and I can't.
But either way, it's about that class space, and if you're down below, you're worth less than nothing. You're already dead in their eyes. They don't even identify you as anything. So Cocteau gets because Dennis Leary and his people keep causing all kinds of trouble and robbing fucking Taco Bell when they're bringing their food in. He goes and because criminals are frozen. They have this little ball that they drop, and then they're like in suspended animation in this frozen space. They pipe all kinds of weird shit into their heads to keep their minds occupied.
Well, it's more for like training for when if they get out.
Come back out, yeah.
Like they teach Sylvester Stallone how to knit.
He knits, yeah. Oh my fucking god, that's so fucking.
But they taught Wesley Snipes how to kill and how to do all sorts of martial arts,
what he had done before,
and how to be a computer hacker and a bunch of stuff that wouldn't be traditional corrective behavior.
And he becomes the Golem. I mean, in that sense, because they can't control him. They created this monster. So then they have to wake up the Demolition Man, who was put into this frozen state improperly. They accused him of firing on a crowd that was protesting because they wanted food, right? Isn't that what? Somebody opened fire when they're in the helicopter.
No, you're thinking of Running Man.
Is that? That is Running Man. Holy fuck! See, that's Arnold. So why did he end up?
Because he ended up blowing up a building
in the basement. All the civilians at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's right. Sorry, guys. Gals, and non-binary. I totally forgot the crossovers there.
Yeah. No, I mean, but anyway, he went to jail or went to being a frozen fucking ice cube for 20 or 30 years, and he didn't do anything. But he caught Wesley Snipes at the same time. So essentially they got frozen at the same time.
Yeah.
And they hated each other. Kind of got defrosted at the same time.
They were arch nemesis. Yeah. So, and so when Sly wakes up, they want him to save San Angeles, but they want him to do it in their way. But because they've lived in this state for so long, where there's no violence and there's no everybody basically is they're bought and sold inside of this fascist disposition. They don't know how to deal with this again, the golem that they had created in Wesley Snipes. So Sly comes out, and of course, what's her name?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock is the police officer that sort of goes along the side of him, and almost immediately when he gets out, because he's been frozen for a while and he didn't get a purge himself of all of his turds, before he has to go to the bathroom, and they don't use toilet paper anymore. The bathrooms don't work the same. There's something about 3 seashells that we never really find out how the 3 seashells work, but because Sylvester Stallone is so inventive and comes up with his own solutions, in this world, if you cuss, then you get fined a certain number of credits. So he walks up to the machine that gives him the credits and says, fuck cocksucker, goddamn son of a bitch, do ma, fum pee, and that's you got to go multilingual when you're talking about cussing. So ultimately, he gets himself a bunch of pieces of paper so that he can go and wipe his ass with the paper and then clog up the toilet. Wonderful fucking movie. 3 seashells, man.
Yeah.
I forgot about Demolition Man.
It's one of those that, again, I totally love. And it's not because Sylvester Stallone is such a great actor, but
to be sure,
it's a great flick. And between Arnold and Sly, they've been in a lot of those type of movies. Obviously, we're not going to talk about a lot of them or all of them, but another one, and this is because, in Demolition Man, Rob Schneider is one of the cops, and he makes fun of Sly for not knowing how to use the 3 seashells. Well, I don't know if it's Sylvester Stallone or if it's the casting person or what, but for some reason, Rob Schneider was also in Judge Dredd.
I've never seen Judge Dredd.
And he played this weird little, low-level con man sort of criminal. And, again, he was in that. So he and Sylvester Stallone kind of had to buddy up to get back into the city because they had walled everything up, and everything outside was this weird wasteland. It's just a desert. And so a lot of times if you were charged with something, then being cast out would be your punishment.
You're not gonna live.
Right. So that, again, is another great movie. Not a big fan of the remake, which I think that I've said on another episode, but
who was in the remake?
I don't know, some dude that I've never heard of or don't know. But they really kind of changed it up, because instead of being in this one big city, which I think was called Mega City, they were real creative with the name.
Yeah, that's a really creative name. Oh my fucking god.
They did all of their fighting in this one apartment building and never showed the the wasteland or anything else. And one of the better fight scenes from the original was out in the wasteland. So I feel like I've been talking this entire time, dude.
No, you're fine. I mean, like, but the only other, like, the reason why I really like, I mean, and the two others that you got to say with regards to Arnold is obviously the one that I made the crossover on, The Running Man, which was, and that was a book or a short story that was written by Stephen King, though, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't think so, but
in his, so he ends up in trouble because of, and did he piss him off before that, and they were setting him up, or what was the?
No, the whole thing is that he said, I'm not going to fire on these innocent people. They're just hungry.
Oh, that's right.
And the guy on the radio said, you've got your orders, open fire now. And he said, no. And then they gave orders to the rest of the people in the helicopter, and they said, subdue him. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up getting in a fight with those guys. Mm-hmm. But then they changed the film and made it look like Arnold actually opened fire on all of these innocent people. Mm-hmm. And that way they could justify it.
Yeah, he became their cop-out. He just sort of worked out that way.
And so in that one, the government, again, this big tyrannical organization, but there was an entertainment division of the Department of Justice.
So that's this idea of, and they use violence and like this weird concept of violence. It's sort of like football plus the UFC to the nth fucking degree.
Right. Yeah. So they had film because the guy that ran the entertainment arm of the Department of Justice he was a real life game show host. But he was pissed because they couldn't find a good contestant. And then they saw this film of Arnold breaking out of jail.
Who loves you and who do you love? Sorry.
You got pretty hyped there, dude.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to...
And so they saw Arnold and they said, well, we want him. And they said, you can't have him. And he said, our ratings are going to go through the roof. So they got Arnold. They ended up getting Maria Conchita Alonso later because she figured out that they doctored the footage. God, dude, and so they threw her in there.
Pretty awesome. What other fucking movie has she ever been in that you would know her name that quick?
I don't know. She was kind of big in the 80s, dude.
Richard Dawson was the name of
the game show host, yeah. And I think he did, what was that fucking Honeymooners?
Predator 2, that's right. She was one of the cops. I forgot about that. I'm sorry, what was the other question you just asked?
Beats the fuck out of me. I can't remember asking a question.
You said something nice, kind of stuff in your dick, but carry on, Running Man.
Anyway, so, The Running Man is another really great flick. Cheesy as hell, bad special effects. Arnold's pretty standard on his really corny lines,
I mean, there were so many Arnoldisms in those.
Yeah. But it, I mean, every time I see that it's on, I end up watching it.
Yeah, it's good. And it's what's so weird about these movies is how much they were really picking up on tendencies that continue to sort of like flourish in our time period, to where the ways in which we are effectively being controlled and we keep us in our, it's sort of like that line from Roger Waters, what do they call it? Is it amuse yourself to death? Like Running Man, like, and just again, like violence, like the concept of voyeurism in relation to like these, like when you're watching, it's like seeing that horrible car wreck that you can't take your eyes away from.
Well, the Romans knew. I mean, that's why they had the
Colosseum and
gladiator rings. But the Colosseum was magnificent and it was huge, but it was in Rome. They had lots of smaller Colosseums throughout the Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's not just the UFC. You got to have Bellator and all those lower level, just
right.
to make it up to go and fight John Jones,
So, I mean, and the United States understands it too. They just know that, like the NFL isn't the gladiators that everybody wants to watch. So they watch the NBA, they watch the MLB, MLS, whatever.
Hockey, where they beat the fuck out of each other every now and again.
And for those of the public that don't watch sports, then there's fucking TikTok, Facebook, Twitter,
Something
Instagram. It's all opiate for the masses. All right.
So what other ones haven't we talked about?
Okay, so this one, both of us almost said simultaneously right before we started, and it is Flash Gordon.
Flash.
He's a protector of the universe. Or something along those lines.
Who played Ming?
I don't know, some dude with a fucking crazy ass mustache.
He did have a crazy mustache.
So Flash Gordon, most of you probably know about Flash Gordon because you watched Ted. Or it might have been Ted 2.
Max von
Sydow.
Yeah, that guy's played a fucking ton of shit in his fucking day. That's a good evil motherfucker.
So Flash Gordon is a quarterback from the New York Jets. I can't remember how he ends up in this other universe. I mean, because he's away from Earth, and there's these weird flying hawk people, and there's these weird Robin Hood people, and there's all of Ming the Merciless's, weird robots and warriors.
I forgot about that. They have the great fights on that thing, the circle thing that goes around and tilts, and then the spikes come up.
Yeah. So fucking cheesy. And I'm not gonna put this on the same category with the other ones, because this one is almost just pure fucking cheese. But it does make me laugh, and it is incredibly fucking entertaining, dude.
But there wasn't any real, I don't remember any social, what's so interesting about these other science fiction ones is that they do address so many weird social questions. Did they address anything in...
I don't think so, really, other than like the Hawk people and the Robin Hood people, or maybe they were more Peter Pan people. I don't know. They were all wearing green. They hated Ming, and they called him a tyrant and whatever, but they didn't necessarily show what he had done to be a tyrant. Like, obviously he killed people, but I don't know if that automatically makes you a tyrant.
So there's a power differential, but they don't go anything in specifics to where...
No, because they wanted to do action. There's one fucking scene where instead of fighting people, he's pretending like he's on a football field, and he's got this fucking weird metal ball, and he's hitting people in the head with it and shit.
Yeah, I actually just found a photo of it. Like when you said that he was a football player, the first thing, right there, he's got it.
Yeah, that's the one.
And maybe they didn't develop those other social questions so much because they had to fucking pay Queen so much to make such a great fucking soundtrack.
That might have been it. Like, all of their budget went there, and the rest was green screen. So I don't know, dude. I don't know what's on your list. I've got a whole bunch of shit on here. The Lawnmower Man with Pierce Brosnan and Jeff Fahey.
I don't remember what. It was sort of like an internet thing before the internet wasn't it?
Yeah, Fahey was like the retarded landscaper.
Oh, that's right.
And Pierce Brosnan was this scientist, and he asked his retarded landscaper if he could, do some experiments on him. And then all of a sudden, Fahey's intellect, just grew exponentially. And then he finally ended up going, into the infrastructure. Like, he went through the wires, and, now all of a sudden he was everywhere.
So he was controlling stuff then through the...
Yeah, he ended up going kind of crazy and trying to terrorize everybody, but that one I don't think addressed a lot of the social questions that some of the other ones did. The only reason I mentioned it is because there were like truly fucking cheesy special effects.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking horrible.
Kind of like Hackers in the same way.
But I loved Hackers. But yeah, there were a lot of technology issues in that one as far as I'm concerned.
But it was like Lawnmower Man. It was before we really knew how that stuff was. I mean, they had anytime they were gonna to hack, they had to use the dial up. They do it on the fucking. They went down to Grand Central Station and did it down below with the fucking payphones.
And they went up to that one tower that time and stole, a dial tone from the tower. So yeah, a lot of the technology was right, but some of it was not right.
The goofy ass Leonardo da Vinci, like the way that they created the visual for that was very fucking like 1991, 1989.
Oh, it was horrible cheese, dude.
One that I really liked that was another one that was goofy, and it's another one that really talked about like government power, and but I mean, this is like you want to talk about hacky. Was Fortress? Did you see this movie?
That had Christopher Lambert in it.
It did. Yeah, the only thing I ever remember in other than
Highlander.
Highlander. Yep.
There can be only one.
But the guy, what's the name of the guy that was running? The same guy that was the bad guy in RoboCop, with the glasses. He was on that '70s show.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I don't know his name.
But he has so like the corporation runs everything, and the corporation this sort of like is an early comment on private prisons and whatnot. All of these people are stuck inside of it. The way that they control them is through they got like these things that they put inside of their throats or something like that, and if they fuck with them, it'll blow up their fucking neck. Kind of the same way that they did in Cloud Atlas with those the Korean girls who were produced.
Or the Running Man. They had that.
They did. That's right. That because they had to get it off and then they throw it in the box.
Yeah, and if you were more than like 10 feet away from because they linked them together.
Yeah, they blow you up like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So, but I have no idea why. I mean, why? But it's just one of those ones where the way that they sort of like galvanize the prison population and also like again, like I said, they did all this weird biotech stuff to the warden, so he was really more of a like half man, half machine.
I haven't seen that movie.
You should watch. I think it's on Tubi. You can watch it for free on Tubi. It's got commercials, but whatever.
So when you're talking about prisons, I didn't even write this one down on my list, but Ray Liotta was in a movie, again, one of my favorites called No Escape. And when he first goes to prison, his cellmate is freaking out, saying they're reading my mind and whatever. And one of the rules is you can't hoard food. Well, he had brought some food because he knew he was getting a new cellmate, so he tried to give Ray Liotta food. And then he's like, shh, don't think.
On an island, right?
Well, at the part I'm describing, they're actually in a prison. Okay. But then he smacks the warden for killing his cellmate or something, and they ship him off to that island out in the middle of nowhere. So again, government oppression, private prisons, all of that kind of stuff. And I should have had it on my list. I don't know why I didn't.
I saw that movie? I saw it at the drive-in.
Cinderella Twin?
Yeah, dude. With Pickle. I think that what we watched that movie, but I think that what happened at the movie probably is what happens at drive-ins.
Yeah. So, we babbled an awful lot, and I think we told you about some real good movies that are important to watch if you are a movie fan. But we're coming up on 50 minutes now. Time flies.
Already? Really?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. So just real quick, I'll run through the rest of my list. I've got Starship Troopers, truly fucking cheesy, like horrible special effects. But again, with all of the weird technology that they show in that movie. I know I don't know. He did Puppet Masters, but Universal Soldier, I Come in Peace, Mars Attacks, Inner Space, Predator, and that pretty much clears my list.
Okay, so the other ones that I didn't. I mean, and this is the really cool. I mean, if you don't look, what does science fiction exist for? It exists for us to go through the process of social dreaming, and this is a really fun way. And like imagining the directions that we're going to, possibilities, and this is a way of kind of doing it in a way where it's not like you're so committed to the direction of it. You're just kind of laughing about it and thinking about it at the same time. But either way, so did you say Spaceballs?
No.
Okay, so that Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Ghostbusters, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Real Genius, Brazil, Men in Black, Idiocracy, Weird Science, The Fifth Element, The Truman Show. Did you say short?
Dude, you had some great fucking movies on that list.
You said Inner Space. Ice Pirates, one of the goofiest fucking movies in the history of the universe.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I have it on VHS downstairs. Cherry 2000, Doctor Strangelove, Sleeper. We said Young Frankenstein, right? Night of the Comet, Back to the Future, Brazil, all the Star Trek films. All the Marvel films, and Alien Nation. Alien Nation was a stupid fun one too.
I started to write down Alien Nation, but then I thought, well, we've talked about it on at least 2 episodes already, so I'm going to lay off on that one.
But it fits the bill.
But you mentioned Cherry 2000, and that reminded me of Tank Girl. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of really good shit out there that is really bad. Whether it's bad special effects, bad acting, bad writing. But the general premise of most of these movies is, man against government, man against technology, not really man against nature so much. But
Terminator. I didn't think about that. Those are not as hacky though.
I didn't put Terminator down because, that was James Cameron and probably his best movie.
He's such an idiot. I mean, he really is.
But they're and some of them are just so fucking stupid. Mars Attacks makes me fucking laugh hysterically, and I've seen it a whole bunch of times.
I've never seen it.
I Come in Peace makes me laugh hysterically, and it's not supposed to be funny, I don't think.
Who did
Dolph Lundgren is in it.
He's another great actor.
Right. But they I don't know, there's this fucking bad alien that comes down because they're getting some sort of drug, and I can't remember if they get the drug from killing humans, but it's essentially like heroin to these aliens. So he's just a drug dealer. He's a smuggler. And Dolph Lundgren comes down to stop him, and he ends up having to buddy up with a human cop here, and they're chasing him around. Universal Soldier, Dolph Lundgren's in that too. Horrible fucking movie. Soldier with Kurt Russell.
I haven't seen that one, but I mean, if it's got Kurt Russell in it, it's got to be a masterpiece.
Absolutely. The Academy Award gave it a nod or 2. So, go out there, watch a movie, take, some of our suggestions, or don't.
Or if you think that we missed any that we should have talked about.
Yeah.
Send it. Send us an email, give us a text, or let us know.
Or just call us.
Yeah, we're here. 720-334-ROLL.
Or you can email us at shortbusdebateclub@yahoo.com. So that is the Wednesday edition on Thursday. And, on Friday, we're going to talk about the death of online gaming. And I don't know if we've got anything planned for next week yet or not, but we'll let you know.
Indeed, we will.
All right, people. Thanks for listening.
Hasta la vista, baby.
We'll talk to you later.